Good morning, everyone. Do you remember this picture? This picture was tweeted out by Justin Trudeau and picked up by newspapers, etc. This is June 7th, 2017, and it says, "We asked our readers to caption this photo of Obama and Trudeau. The results were hilarious." I just want to make sure everybody understands that's Barack Obama and that's Justin Trudeau. And that's after Obama left office. And they're at some restaurant. I don't know. It's kind of weird, right? Like, you would expect, I don't know, former presidents meeting with current prime ministers. Wouldn't they do that like in a meeting room somewhere right, rather than this photo op-y looking thing? It looks like, well, it looks like they wanted to be seen, wanted to have these photos taken. And I mean, Obama endorsed Trudeau a few years later, right, for the 2019 election, right? Obama's strange and irresponsible endorsement of Justin Trudeau. And I thought this was funny. The notion of a bromance, according to J.J. McCullough, sorry, from the Washington Post, he says, "The notion of a bromance between President Barack Obama and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has always struck me as one of the most painfully contrived political tropes of recent years." Yeah. But perhaps oddest of all was the fact that America's first black president chose to endorse a man who just a couple of weeks prior was engulfed in a scandal following revelations he wore blackface repeatedly and as recently as 2001, and possibly more often since he says he can't remember. With its far larger black population and more front-of-mind history of racial tensions, it's probably fair to say that tolerance for blackface is even lower in the United States than in Canada. Thus, while no one in Trudeau's party has called for the Prime Minister to step down, we may recall that basically the entire Democratic Party establishment, from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democratic, California, to Hillary Clinton, to every major presidential candidate, demanded the immediate resignation of Virginia Governor Ralph Northam this year after he was revealed to have worn blackface in 1984. Isn't that an interesting juxtaposition? Everybody in the United States governing class, everybody who's got leadership aspirations, the presidential candidates, everybody said that 1984 stunt of wearing blackface, outrageous in 2020. You have to go. And he was ousted, right? But here's Barack Obama having a seat, having a dinner, right? With blackface Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself. So isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? And why am I talking about Obama so much, right? I thought this was weird too. ABC News, bromantic moments. This bromance thing was pushed hard, just like, I mean, lots of other things. Here's a similar article. Trudeau, Obama's bromance real prize comes with the world watching, right? Like, this was pushed hard. Bromance was the buzzword of the day, right? But why am I talking about this? Have you guys heard about Obamagate? Have you heard about Obamagate? Because Obamagate says, and this is the long version. I'll show you the short version. Basically, I'm gonna get these guys to intro it, and then, you know what? Actually, at the end here, they just kind of wrap it up. The Attorney General or Assistant Attorney General should have all of the details. Usually, the president is not privy to details like that, and if he is, well, that's problematic. Mr. Gorka says smoking gun because he was filling Sally Yates in on a whole bunch of stuff. But basically, it looks like there's some legal trouble coming for Barack Obama. And I just wanted to show everybody how close Mr. Obama and Justin Trudeau are. And I think that that's interesting. And they really wanted to push their close relationship, like to the extent where Obama was endorsing Trudeau in 2019, despite blackface, and you'd think that would matter. You'd think that would come into it a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe that's racist of me to think that. Maybe not, though. Here's Gorka talking about the scandal and what to expect. So if you haven't heard of this, now you've heard of this, and then I'll move on after Gorka talks. Here we go.
Then Sally Yates.
Correct.
Now, why is Sally Yates interesting?
Well, because at that point, she's going to pick up the ball and become the acting Attorney General.
Okay.
And so...
And she should know...
She purportedly is surprised by what Obama tells her.
So this is the big deal from last week. Last week's filings on General Flynn's case being unsubstantiated have in those documents an FBI memorandum in which Sally Yates is apparently shocked that there is an operation against Mike Flynn, and who's giving her the details of the operation?
President Obama.
President Obama knows the details.
Correct.
He's filling in the woman who is Deputy Attorney General of the United States.
Correct.
Smoking gun, am I wrong?
Right. It's a January 5th.
So, they're very excited. They're very excited. And I'm not trying to push their excitement. I'm just trying to let you know that I think there's something coming down the chute that Canadian media might ignore. So check out Obamagate. It's an interesting scandal. I think that there's I think that it holds water. I think that perhaps it might take over the news cycle. I don't know, but we'll see, right? Being in Canada, the news cycle is controlled by, what the government wants us to be thinking about. And have you noticed the influx of ads for COVID-19? Like, it seems like they're buying up all of the ad space. Like, there's very few ads for other things right now. And I mean, granted, everything's shut down, right? So what are you going to be advertising? But still, very few ads for anything else. Okay, here's an interesting question and answer from Justin Trudeau. Companies are going to have to put forward their framework for reducing emissions before receiving federal cash. Apparently, Justin Trudeau didn't see Planet of the Humans, or he just wants to continue this farce. But we're still going to this net zero, which is moving the goalpost again on reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, et cetera, et cetera. It's just it's a way to muddy the waters. Remember at the beginning of the Wuhan virus thing, when they kept changing the classifications of who was sick and who qualified as a COVID death and who didn't, and presumptive deaths and all this other thing? This is just the same, right? It's exactly the same. It's a shell game, right? It's a shell game. And if you have predictability, structure in one, and then that gets smashed and now you have to do something else, it's like you're constantly off your kilter, off your feet, and they're shrouding it in we're just trying to help. I don't know. I don't think so.
And I'm wondering, will oil and gas companies be able to fulfill this requirement given the sector's contribution to Canada's CO2 emissions?
We have seen many oil and gas companies make commitments already around net zero by 2050, around understanding that we need to do better in terms of reducing emissions both as a country and as a sector. That's why we're expecting them to put forward a frame within which they will demonstrate their commitments to reducing emissions and fighting climate change. Okay.
My microphone. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So isn't that interesting, right? Here's yet another hurdle, another bit of bureaucracy, another bit of red tape. Did you agree to the net zero by 2050? No? Oh, well, then sorry, we can't send you your money. I apologize, but rules are rules. You forgot to check the box after all. We'll send it back to you, and it'll be another 2-week turnaround, right? Bureaucracy. Dragging feet, changing expectations, right? They're saying, oh, we're here to help all Canadians, but now that we're helping you and giving you all this money, you've got to play by our rules. You work for us now, right? Here's another one. Trudeau says governments will be held to account if reopening happens too quickly and Canadians have to lock down once again in a few weeks because people were overeager to get the economy going. Okay, well, I want to show you this really quickly before we get into that. Ontario is expected to extend the state of emergency to June 2nd. I say again, where is the emergency? Where is the emergency? Our healthcare system is not overwhelmed. Our ICUs are not overwhelmed. Ventilators, there's plenty of them, and there's evidence that that they don't actually help anyway, that the people on ventilators end up dying at a much higher rate. There's evidence that hydroxychloroquine helps and is an effective treatment for a lot of people. There are places that have had 0 deaths, including provinces in Canada that have used hydroxychloroquine in defiance of the Canadian government's order not to use it. And so I think that it is really, really odd that we are seeing the state of emergency extended with not much opposition. I think it's strange. Why are we extending the state of emergency? We should be opening up, and we should be opening up much faster than we are, because it looks like this is very different. COVID-19 is very different than what it was originally sold to us as, I think. And I could be wrong. But anyway, here's Trudeau talking about how governments will be held to account if they open too quickly. So this could be influencing Doug Ford's slow rollout. But that said, I don't know. We've got so many pathways that what's more important? Appeasing the Prime Minister who won't leave his cottage, or getting one of the biggest economies in Canada going again? I think getting Ontario going again is important, right? And I think a case can be made if you have a week and then 2 weeks and 3 weeks of pretty much the same. And I think that that's probably what we'll do. And we have to do it responsibly. You can't have people going into old age homes from the general public generally. Like that's a bad idea, right? Like, there are ways to do this carefully and ways to spin the economy back up in a way that the public will believe is responsible. And that's what is important, I think, in my opinion. Quebec is having children start back in schools and businesses opening. I think that they're probably right. We have to live with this. We have to move forward. We have to continue with our lives. We can't live in our houses hoping for the government handouts for the rest of our lives, especially businesses. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, back to Trudeau telling the provinces there will be consequences.
Canadians to get this right. And we understand that the sacrifices we've all made for the past 2 months of staying home, of self-isolating, of keeping 2 meters distance, of not seeing parents and grandparents, could all go up in smoke if we move too quickly on reopening, or if a given jurisdiction makes the wrong decisions. That's why being cautious and gradual and vigilant is essential for how we move forward on the gradual reopening. And that's why Canadians across the country are looking very carefully at all orders of government and the decisions they make, and will be held to account if reopening happens too quickly and Canadians have to lock down once again in a few weeks because people were overeager to get the economy.
How did COVID deaths stack up to fentanyl deaths? Like yearly? I don't know. I think I know the answer to this, though. I don't think if the number of fentanyl deaths is close to the amount of COVID deaths, I don't think that we would lock down the country. And I don't think that we would be this punitive with the population. And yet, like, I don't know. I think that this is the wrong approach, consistently the wrong approach. Between state of emergency in Ontario and the continued lockdown federally, and it is not continuing to keep people safe. The stringent lockdown measures are contributing to other impacts that are negatively affecting more people, right? So that's something to consider. Like heart patients or cancer patients, or there are people who are waiting in line to get tests that have been delayed indefinitely, right? My parents are older, and both are waiting for appointments that can't happen because of the lockdown currently, and they've both been told until restrictions lift, we can't do anything. So, there are unintended consequences, and that's just the health lens. Like, we could look at the economic lens, and I think that's much more catastrophic, right? A $250 billion deficit. How do we even begin to pay that down, right? We're taxed quite a lot as it was at $20 billion deficit. So it's incredible that we've ran headlong into a multi-$100 billion deficit with no plan on how to pay it back. And that doesn't just go away, right? It doesn't magically disappear. We have to deal with that. So it's frustrating. Here's Rex Murphy. He says we need to get the House of Commons back now. Here we go. In this extraordinary time in Canadian history, the National Conservative Party is in a swoon. The party has jammed itself into a cat's cradle of cross purposes and lack of focus. Having defrocked its leader via some internal broil, then started and stalled a parody of a leadership race, when the present crisis hit, it is on the political equivalent of an ice pan slowly drifting to warm waters. A few of its key members are doing what little can be done in such a context, but a coherent, continuous, and full opposition is just not there. It is less odd than regrettable in that in the peak of the crisis and an unprecedented explosion of expenditure, the Conservative opposition hardly checks in. It's bad for the government, too. Governments need opposition. It saves them from arrogance. It bolts them to accountability. This Conservative Party never bolted the Liberal Party to accountability, not once. They tried, but they never were effective in it. Never. They would ask questions, and they would get easily parried by the Liberals calling racist or some other thing, and the news runs with it. And what the news says is true. Try having an argument with somebody where you can't cite a reputable newspaper or a reputable source. Basically, they discount you as crazy. And that's why I do my shows, because I want to show people that these things are actually happening and give links. But it only goes so far. And I mean, looking at Planet of the Humans and the Plandemic movie, Global News has a debunking of Plandemic. Who needs Snopes these days, right? Global News is getting in on the action of debunking inconvenient truths. And the unfortunate part about it is, they said, in pandemic, they wrongly state wearing masks can get you sick. And what the woman was saying is if you're wearing a mask all day and breathing into it different coronaviruses that you potentially have, you could infect yourself, or if you take it off and put it back on, etc. I don't know what's true. I don't know if what Global News is saying is a public service announcement to help people understand that there's some wrong information in pandemic, or if pandemic is accurate, if the doctor who's being interviewed is accurate. I don't know, but I think that it's interesting how far we've come from being able to bolt anyone to accountability, right? It's just across the board. It's been muddied to the waters have been muddied to the point of being too murky to see through. Okay. I don't know if it's a simile or a metaphor. Back to this. The party holds an impressive number of parliamentary seats, but without a parliament to sit in, numerical presence is irrelevant. This also means that the region of the country the Conservatives almost exclusively represent, which we ritually refer to as the West, to BC's chagrin, is lacking that representation. This has two effects. The first is obvious. It means the whole region of the country will not see its priorities reflected, or reflected only poorly, in the minority Liberal government's choices and policies. Given the government's embrace of global warming as a creed, and its not so subtle antagonism towards the oil industry itself, any effective targeting of support to the industry is very unlikely. The $1.7 billion allotted to clean up orphaned wells has no connection with the forward dynamic of the industry, ending the landlock, consenting to an east-west pipeline, stemming the flight of companies and jobs. Secondly, the tacit agreement with the separatist Quebecois, which provides the government with a de facto majority, though often not spoken out loud as such, adds another dimension to the anti-oil mentality of our times. I scroll down a little bit. It is this informal alliance with the Bloc that is the mechanism that gives security to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's minority government. It is that which has enabled this most curious method of governing we have seen in the last 2 months. The House of Commons has become as close to irrelevancy without a full shutdown as is possible, and Canada is now governed from a cottage doorway. The safeguards of oversight, procedures, and protocols of parliamentary democracy have been simply switched off. In a normal world, this would be seen as a staggering surrender of both form and substance in democratic governing. The government has no continuous challenge with it when the opposition party cannot meet in Parliament. Government by morning announcement and emptying of the Treasury by the billions nearly every day is a travesty. We will see once the quarantine ends and time unfolds that there will be a price to pay for this slackness. Well, I hope the quarantine does indeed end. That's my hope. I scroll down. The dignity of a nation is a resource in its governance. It cannot be abandoned without cost. The rights and rituals of Parliament, its protocols and practices impart weight and dignity to the function of its members. Its splendid and historic buildings, the site itself on a hill in the capital, speak of seriousness and respect and pride of nationhood. Stripped of its proper setting, replaced by a kind of press conference soliloquy under damn tent, it becomes mundane. I've watched with some pain one of the virtual make-believe Commons sittings, and it resembled more a fossilized opening of the Brady Bunch than the deliberations of a modern democracy. It was like a bad call-in show. I'm familiar with the format, and attempting to coordinate the rules of the House with this pale mimicry simply does not and cannot work. The MPs participating looked lost and alone as they spoke out or into the Zoom void. It would not have been out of place if some tuxedoed voice had interrupted to do an Excedrin commercial or tout the latest miracle skin cream. This cannot continue. It is surely past time to bring Parliament back to something like full function, to work whatever protections for health are thought necessary, and have the nation's MPs do their deliberations in the House they fought so fiercely to get into in the first place. If Costco can open, I surely do not understand why the House of Commons of the Canadian nation cannot as well. And I fully agree. This guy makes a lot of very good points. And Rex Murphy, of course, Rex Murphy, I think I said that at the beginning. But fundamentally, in order to have governance that is legitimate, we need to have the House of Commons sit. We're not to be governed by cottage door, to quote Rex Murphy. Right? The last two stories this morning. No, there's still 3 stories left. Oh my goodness, I'm long already. Oh my goodness. Bryan Adams is being accused of racism. This is the tweet. Tonight was supposed to be, actually, it was an Instagram post, and I don't have Instagram, but this is the Instagram post, and he cuts like a knife. And anyway, this is what it said. He said, tonight was supposed to be the beginning of a tenancy of gigs at the Royal Albert Hall, but thanks to effing bat-eating, wet market, animal-selling, virus-making, greedy bastards. The whole world is now on hold. And then he plays his Instagram song. Interesting. And then CTV is mad at him. They say Bryan Adams blames bat-eating virus-making greedy bastards in COVID-19 rant, right? And so I think it's funny. Comment, and I tried to go to Instagram, but I don't use Instagram because I just don't use Instagram. And so I was going to show you, but I had to log in to see it, so I didn't. While comments on Instagram were supportive of Adams his message, it wasn't long before Adams' post was trending on Twitter. Many users there called it racist, and they show a bunch of the Twitter responses, right? So these guys agreed with us that it's racist, and we'll show you that. Crazy, right? This is a story I've been following. I said from the beginning that the elected chiefs had already negotiated with this is the Wet'suwet'en land dispute with regard to the pipeline. The memo of understanding does not address the initial issue of the pipeline. It just gives the land to the hereditary chiefs, not the elected chiefs. So the elected chiefs are calling for the minister's resignation. Wet'suwet'en elected chiefs call for minister's resignation. CBC's reporting, and this is May 11th. Today is May 12th. I don't think I told you the date yet, so there it is. Elected Wet'suwet'en chiefs are asking for the immediate resignation of Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Caroline Bennett over an agreement between Ottawa, BC, and their hereditary chiefs, which they claim was drafted without their consent. In a joint statement released on Monday, 4 elected chiefs call on the BC and federal governments to reject the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, on rights and title with hereditary chiefs and restart the negotiation process to include the elected leadership. I scroll down. Luigi told CBC News that the elected chiefs want Bennett to resign and not BC's Indigenous Relations Reconciliation Minister Scott Fraser because Bennett had a special constitutional relationship with First Nations as the minister who represents the Crown. In this instance, we are witnessing a failure of the Crown, and we believe they are wanting to pursue negotiations and leaving a certain group of people out, Luigi said. When you look at the Aboriginal rights and title, they are collective rights, and all members and all of our interests must be respected at every stage. Luigi said the elected chiefs are considering legal action. How do they expect to receive or achieve ratification if this is how things are starting out right now, said Luigi. Right. I mean, like, just throw out all those negotiations and the years of work that you've done and just, just accept this. Isn't this weird? I thought this was weird. Bank of Canada is offering a scholarship for students in visible minority groups. And here are the scholarship eligibility. You have to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, and you must identify as a member of a visible minority group or racialized group, or as a person of color. You may wish to consult the definitions included in Canada's Employment Equity Act and the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. Isn't that racist? Can I have a Canada Poly scholarship for a specific European country? Can I say that I really like Estonian people? You have to be from Estonia only, and you have to be born in Estonia. And can I do that? Or to be more overt, and this will demonetize my video, can I just say white people only can get this? As they've said, white people cannot apply for this? Can I do that? I don't think that's legal, but this one is. Why is this one legal? And my Estonian idea or my white person idea would be frowned upon, at the very least. Frowned upon. That's understating it a little bit, I think. But this is perfectly fine. This is an August. The closing date for this is August 1st, 2020. So this is up to date. This is current. The link is in the description if you want to check it out. It's careers@bankofcanada.ca. Job, Ottawa, right? Scholarship for visible minority groups. Why is this okay? I don't think this is okay, right? I think this is probably not acceptable. Are there not other parameters other than race? Why are we being chopped up by race? Why have we been told for decades that having, like, the color of your skin doesn't matter, and now it matters? Clearly it does. Right? Weird. Seems weird to me, everybody. Seems weird. There are rules for one group of people and rules for a different group of people, and those rules aren't the same, right? And look up the definition of rule of law. What does that mean? Right? Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. I am supposed to be recording with Greg today. We're scheduled for 2, so hopefully that'll be up later tonight. And have a wonderful, wonderful